Nelly Rodrigues from the Department of Foods, Nutrition and Dietetics, College of Home Science, Nirmala Niketan, affiliated to University of Mumbai. I would like to extend a very warm welcome to each one of you for today's webinar. Nirmal Swasthya has been specially organized by our department to impart education through the digital mode for nutritional and lifestyle empowerment of the community. We have had inputs from qualified experts and nutritionists on a wide range of topics towards this goal. We wish to thank Kellogg's India for collaborating with us. We began with this series on the 9th of June, and today is session 6 of the series. And today's session is on nourishment and vitality for senior citizens. We have amidst us today two renowned experts from the field. Dr. Eileen Kande, Chief Dietitian at Sir H.N. Reliance Hospital, Mumbai. She is going to talk on the topic dietary principles and practice. And Ms. Nazneen Hussain, founder and chief nutritionist at Freedom Wellness. She is also the chief nutritionist of the Indian Defence Forces. Her topic is on dietary applications, exercise, yoga, and attitudes, which is also essential for overall well-being and holistic wellness. Both of them have been our alumni, and I'm very happy to welcome them for this session. Before we begin, I have a few instructions for our participants. Dear participants, please do not unmute yourself or turn on your video during the session. Also, do not annotate on the screen while the presentation is on. Requesting you all to put up your questions in the chat section on Zoom. This will be taken up at the end of each presentation today. Also, requesting you all for your valuable feedback towards the end of today's session. Also, please note that today we are experiencing some technical difficulties streaming the session live on YouTube. We would be later sharing the recorded version of today's session, and all the participants will be notified about the same on the WhatsApp groups. Now, I would start by introducing our speaker, Dr. Eileen Kande. Please give me a moment to share my screen. Dr. Eileen Kande is the head, Department of Nutrition and Dietetics, Sir H.N. Reliance Hospital and Research Center. She specializes in several areas such as critical care, oncology, renal nutrition, bariatric nutrition, weight loss, and nutrigenetics. She has been practicing as a medical nutritionist since the last 24 years. Dr. Kande is a diabetes educator, having completed professional qualifications from International Diabetes Federation and is also a member of the Association of Diabetes Educators. She has successfully completed a pediatric onco-nutritionist fellowship from Tata Memorial Hospital and is a trained oncology nutrition specialist. She is also on the National Board of Registered Dietitians. She is the Honorary Joint Secretary to the Indian Association of Parenteral and Enteral Nutrition, Mumbai chapter. She is an avid researcher and has published several national and international scientific publications. Along with this, she is a peer reviewer for UGC recognized national and international research journals. She is on the board of studies of various autonomous educational institutes. She also has a keen interest in nutrition writing and has authored several chapters in books and nutritional manuals. She is a good orator and has delivered lectures and has given television and newspaper interviews on topics related to nutrition. Dr. Kande has been a faculty speaker at a number of national and international level platforms and conferences for professional groups of doctors, dietitians, students, etc. So we welcome you, Dr. Kande, and over to you for the presentation. Dr. Kande, requesting you to begin. Dr. Eileen, we are unable to hear you, requesting you to start with your presentation again and share the screen. First, introduce her. Ms. Nazneen Hussain is the founder director, Freedom Wellness Management, and she is also the National Executive Committee member of the Indian Dietetic Association. She is a nutritional advisor to INS Hamla and it is a joint service with Institute of Catering and Technology. She is also the head dietitian at Yoga Institute, Santa Cruz, Mumbai. She is also the chief nutritionist for Steadfast Football Academy, Ras Circle, and she is associated with elite schools of Mumbai as school nutritionist and consultant, and is also a part of their advisory board. She is a nutritionist to many lead corporate houses for corporate wellness workshops. Her current areas of interest include research and lifestyle management. She is also a nutrition counselor for famous sports celebrities and Bollywood actors. She is a regular columnist in newspapers, TV shows, and radio interviews. And she is a trustee of the Equal Streets Movement and Mumbai Car Free Day. Over to you, Ms. Nazneen.
Thank you, Manali.
Thank you, Ms. Nazneen.
I just wanted to know if you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes, Eileen.
Yes, Ms. Eileen.
Hear me now. Okay, hear me now. Okay. So yeah. So any one of us can start. Since you have already started, you can start. Suddenly my audio has started working now. I don't know.
No, it's okay. Technology has its own thing.
Yeah,
right.
Okay. Yeah. Start. You can start.
All right. So good afternoon, everyone. It's a sheer pleasure to be here today. And thank you so much to Nirmal Swastha. I think it's a fantastic initiative by the college. And as an ex-alumni, I definitely feel very, very proud to be a part of this initiative in spreading the knowledge out to the people. So fantastic initiative, and congratulations to the entire team at NN. So today my topic is going to be on positive health for seniors. So I assumed I was coming in second, so I will jump straight to the topics. The outline of my talk will be sleep, frailty, falls. We'll be talking a little about gut health because Eileen is also talking about it. A little insights on yoga and Ayurvedic perspectives. Also exercise, mental health, pranayama and meditation, and a positive living with TLC. So when we talk about all of these, often one wonders that some of the biggest challenges with older seniors is difficulty in falling asleep. Okay, change in sleeping habits, fewer hours of sleeping, waking up very frequently, especially for males because of all the prostate problems, and also the quality of sleep is pretty disturbed. All this can lead to major health concerns like risk of falling and daytime fatigue. And often people say, I am very tired through the day. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. So what causes sleep disturbances? A lot of insomnia, sleep apnea, restless leg syndrome, and this is something which more and more seniors are complaining of. It's also the change in the circadian rhythm and the REM, which is the sleep cycle, which means there are some vivid acting dreams during the night, and because of which seniors are unable to sleep. Also, this causes a lot of anxiety, depression, and over a period of time probably may lead to dementia. So who can have these sleep disturbances? Often seniors who have early signs of Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, chronic arthritis pain, and especially in this season where the rains have just come in, and especially winter months, these can be extremely painful for all our seniors with arthritis. Also cardiovascular disease, just having a heavy meal and living with a feeling of bloating may not let you sleep through the night. You may feel pretty uncomfortable. Other neurological conditions, also some gastrointestinal conditions, respiratory conditions, and of course poor bladder control like I mentioned before. Also, most of the times we see these days our seniors have hyperpharmacy. They have more than 5 drugs, and each of these drugs can actually have a direct impact on sleep. Example, the diuretics for high blood pressure or glaucoma, the antichlorogenic drugs for the COPD patients, also antihypertensive drugs, antidepressant drugs. All of these may have some impact on sleep. Also, excess caffeine and alcohol consumption, and a lot of seniors may be chronic smokers, may all further add to the existing load of sleep problems. So it's very important that people maintain a sleep hygiene. When we say sleep hygiene, it means avoid napping in the day for a very long time. Probably you may do conscious relaxation, but avoid sleeping for a very long time. Have a warm water bath before you sleep. Avoid exercises, heavy exercises just before you sleep. Doing quiet activities like reading before the bed is recommended. Also avoid having very bright lights before the bed, because that again can disturb sleep. And keep a soothing and a comfortable bed. Also, we know that better sleep is better decision making, better immune system support. Today, sleep hygiene is directly related to the immunity. The lesser you sleep, the less you are more prone to diseases, especially in COVID times where we are all under the lockdown. Sleeping well is very, very important because it has a direct impact, and a lot of research studies actually show that. So some of the tips, take home tips would be limit liquid foods before bed. I would say from 5:36 in the evening, start tapering down a little on liquids. Avoid too much of caffeine and alcohol. Eat at least 3 to 4 hours. In a yogic sense, we say eat an early dinner. That would be ideally, in the yogic sense, we say that all senior citizens should eat before sunset. Okay, so probably if you're sleeping by 9:30, 10, you should finish your dinner by 6:37. So keep that long gap. Also, exercise regularly, but not just before bedtime. All right. My next point after sleep I'd like to bring to notice is frailty. And this is, when I talk about frailty, I'm talking about the seniors which are above 70 years of age. And often we see that with increasing age, there is sarcopenia, which is less drop in the muscle mass. There is malnutrition. There's a lot of hormonal changes. Overall, there is less physical activity. Walking speed reduces. Because physical activity drops, the strength, the muscle also drops, and the cycle continues. And often senior citizens feel very, very frail and tired and lose a lot of muscle. So typically, clinically, if we were to explain frailty, a very, very fit person who the person is very fit, from there he goes to well. From that point, he slowly comes down to he's managing well, but not actively exercising or walking. To vulnerable. So he's not dependent on others, but still has limitations in the kind of activities he does. Slowly, he's becoming mildly frail. Okay. When he becomes moderately frail, that's where he will require help from all the outside activities. And he or she will have to stay indoors. They may also need some help climbing up the stairs, and may need assistance with bathing and dressing. The next level is severe frailty, wherein the person is completely dependent on a caretaker, to a stage where we say that very severely frail is where they're completely dependent and approaching the end, towards the end of life. Typically, they could not recover even from a minor illness, and the last stage is terminally ill. So when we scaling frailty, okay, it would currently, when we are in the scope of talk, a person can be very fit to he may be in stage 6. So any of these scales, we're talking only about those. Our scope of talk does not talk about the severely frail or terminally ill. Okay? Another very alarming thing is falls. It is seen that at least 1 of 3 people have a fall, and fall can be the most fatal cause of injury and non-fatal trauma-related hospital admissions. Once the hospital admissions start, there sets in a morbidity. This leads to disability and reduced quality of life. So often the falls suddenly increase from the age of 65, moving on to 72, and then age 80. When we look at ages 80, we see that more and more seniors have a fall almost every year. So the frequency of falls also increase. And when we're talking about all of these, we're talking about changes in the balance and the gait. So balance and gait, essentially, if you have to assess a person, we just tell them walk, and a simple act of walking, you can come to know whether the person has balance or he is slowly shaking. So good test for all you seniors out there is that if you're wearing a chappal or a shoe, देखना कि एक side में अगर घस गया है, if you thinned out on one side of your shoe or your chappal, which means that there is an issue with the balance, and these seniors need to be extremely careful, especially as far as falls are concerned. Some of the other challenges with falls would be vision problem, because most of the times the numbers increase, and you may have not changed your spectacles since a very long time. Also, balance in the inner ear may lead to certain movements which again may have a problem. Also, weakened hips and ankles may be a problem. Arthritis or something as simple as just a migraine can also trigger a fall. Also, many homes are very cluttered. There's just too much saman, too much furniture. So declutter your home. Medications like in the sleep also affect balance and may have some side effect. Wet bathrooms or floors, and also many a times just simple urgency to run to the washroom, and the fact that the senior is trying to hurry up may increase the urgency to go to the washroom. Okay, prevailing falls. So when you're talking about preventing falls, simple guidelines: just have handrails in every key spot, have proper lighting in across your home, having your eyes checked on a regular basis is important. Conveniently placing furniture for support. So you can always have a sofa. If you have to walk, you can hold it and walk so that you don't lose your balance. Eating proper balanced food, which Eileen is going to speak next, and wearing anti-slip footwear is very important here. Another challenge is constipation, and we have an entire movie which is made by beautifully made on Pico on how Amitabh Bachchan actually kept saying aati nahi, and constipation was one of his most trouble thing. Now constipation can happen simply because of inactivity. Even now in the lockdown time, when seniors are completely homebound, they have to be at home, there is very little activity, this may trigger constipation. Also, the very fact that there is very few green leafy vegetables or fiber rich food again can trigger constipation. A lot of dental problems can lead to constipations because the seniors are not able to chew on fiber, and so you eliminate all the fiber rich food, and that again becomes an issue. So constipation is one of the biggest problems. In Ayurveda, you say that the gut is the main cause of all disease. Kharab pet bimariyon ka ghar hai, and today a lot of research also confirms that gut health is very, very important, and the gut brain signal, the GI motor problems, all of these lead to so gut health definitely affects, and an altered gut flora may lead to changes in the mental health, may lead to hypersensitivity, and may also lead to depression. So all of these are directly related, and so eat well, eat a fiber-rich diet. I've also in my coming slides put some exercises for constipation, bloating and gas. Okay, so when we come to exercises and seniors, okay, so this is a beautiful saying. It says sitting is more dangerous than smoking, kills more people than HIV, and is more treacherous than parachuting. We are sitting ourselves to death. Okay, so this is a very, very strong message for all you seniors out there, that let's get moving. Okay, no more sitting. We have to be active in whichever form, even if it means lockdown, even if it means that we are at home, we still need to get moving. So let's see how we can do that. Also, some of the prolonged sitting and a lot of research is done around this, which shows that sitting can directly affect our immunity. It declines our immunity. Okay, so sadly you've done nothing but, and still you're getting sick. So that's not something so nice. Muscle wasting, and we already spoke about frailing earlier. It leads to osteoarthritis. It also increases the frequency of fall. Somebody would say एक्सरसाइज करने से गिरेंगे, नहीं, खाली बैठने से over a period of time frequency of falls increase. Also, because of sitting, there is no activity, and it may lead to other problems like heart disease, diabetes, osteoporosis. Also, overall sitting may lead to fragile skin and pressure ulcers. So all of it needs to be taken care and get moving. Anxiety and depression, definitely, because when a person is just sitting, especially a senior is just sitting, refuses to move, is finding difficulty, slowly and steadily may lead to a lot of anxiety, inconfidence, and eventually depression. So sitting definitely we need to say bye-bye to sitting. Okay, so when we talk about exercise, can anybody just exercise? Yes, everybody can exercise, but like we take our medicines, like we take a dietary advice, exercise also comes in doses. So we have physical exercise dose parameters. So here we calculate the frequency on how often one needs to exercise, the intensity, at what speed one should exercise, the time, how much time does one need to exercise, and the type. So I can be doing yoga 3 times a week at a
Miss Nazneen, sorry to interrupt you. We are unable to hear you clearly. Requesting you to speak a little louder.
Okay.
Thank you.
When we talk about frequency, is this better?
So can you adjust your volume to make it a little more louder?
Yeah. Okay. All right. When we talk about exercise like medicine and like a dietary advice is dose dependent. So you need an exercise prescription. You need to understand how much frequency should one exercise. So I can say I do yoga 3 times a week, and 3
Miss
times a week.
Nazneen, sorry to interrupt you again. It is still low.
Okay. All right. So
Yes, you can continue.
Right. So when we talk about exercise, we're talking about those parameters. So frequency, intensity of the exercise, how much time, is it 30 minutes of yoga and 20 minutes of walking, and type. All of these are very important. Okay, a lot of beautiful research actually shows that when seniors exercise regularly, and when I say exercise, it also includes physical activities of daily living. So जैसे आप walk लेने गए, या if you went to the market or you did smaller work in the house, even small walks like 5 minutes every hour. If you can't achieve the entire 1 hour of walking, no problem. Just break it into smaller achievable goals, like walk for every 5 minutes every hour. So if you're awake for around 12 to 14 hours, you easily walk for more than 2 hours. So even that is counted as activity. We also have a concept called non-exercise energy thermogenesis. So every little physical activity is very important, and move. The word is move. And all of the movement and the physical activity may lead to increase in memory, may lead to word fluency, and we see that as seniors age because of Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and other neurological problems, all these become a problem. Okay. Also, speed becomes a problem. Most of the times, you often hear family members saying, "बहुत slow हो गए हैं," and overall cognition suffers. So, if a senior is exercising regularly, and I keep saying the word regularly because it's not like आज exercise किया 3 दिन नहीं किया. It is every day one needs to exercise, only then we can have benefits. Also, in terms of Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, we have some beautiful research which shows that greater amounts of physical activity can actually improve brain health. So, what are we waiting for? Let's do it. Today, we have a lot of seniors at the Mumbai Marathon, and you can see this old gentleman who is above 80 and this lady who is above 77, and they have done brilliantly well in all the marathons. So, let's get inspired. Okay. When we talk about exercises for seniors, walking definitely is recommended. Stationary cycle. So look at a cycle which has a broader base and which is slightly lower. These are recommended. As of now, swimming pools are closed, but when they open, aquatic exercises are really good, especially for the arthritic people, because the buoyancy of water takes care of your weight. So aquatic exercises can be done. Stretching, yoga, tai chi, all of these are beautiful exercises to do and should be included on a regular basis. Stretching again improves mobility, improves posture, and helps to release the muscle tension and the soreness. It also reduces the risk of injury and improves balance and coordination. There's another lovely study in the Journal of Gerontology which said that only 12 months, a year of stretch and flex program. So these seniors did yoga for a year, and in a year's time they all reported to have positive changes. They were much more self-efficacious, they had a better way of life, their quality of life increased, and they reported decreased pain. Okay, but exercise, as much as it's recommended, it has to be safe exercise. So the first thing is choose correct shoes. Even if you are doing some exercises at home, wear your shoes. Keep clean pairs of shoes and always have grip and support. Even if you're walking at home, make sure that there is a lot of gripper on your shoe. Okay. And chronic exercise activity. When I say chronic means daily, it has to be routine, planned, specific. It can be multifunctional, so that one day you do yoga, one day you can walk on your walk on the spot. Currently in the lockdown, if you have a cycle at home, you can cycle, or you can just do on-spot walking, not only for a week but over months and over years. So this kind of an activity is called chronic physical activity. Okay, and all of these have great benefits. Now I'm going to move to the third part of my talk, which is the Ayurveda wisdom. And while we spoke about modern exercise and science, let's see what Ayurveda and yoga spoke about. So back in the days, it spoke about dincharya, which means daily routines and regimes. Means every senior has to have a time to wake up. Okay, and your time to wake up should be between 5 and 7. Earlier, actually, they say 4 and 7. And if you see this diagram on the right, it actually shows that your entire evacuation process should be around between 5 and 7. Okay. Then it talks immensely on Ritucharya, which is seasonal eating, and regimes. Currently, we are in the stage where we've just moved from the summers to the rains. A lot of seasonal changes have happened. A lot of immunity cases, immunity dropping has happened because of change of season. So be careful, eat sensibly, okay, and exercise. Again, over here you see the third part is Vyayama, which is exercise, physical activity, and all the yoga poses brilliant and can be done. Today we have a lot of modified yoga also. And this is Sadvita, which is the good moral conduct. Okay. So why yoga? When we talk about yoga, any asana or pranayam is not only a physical movement, but it also has a behavior. So when all your meditative asanas would come under the dharma bhav, it helps in having a clear mind. All your stretching asanas would come under the jnana bhav, because jnana is knowledge. So it increases your mindfulness, your self-awareness. The forward bending asanas are the vairagya. It helps us to let go of all our cravings, of all the things, anger, and all the things which we are not able to forget. All the forward bending asanas help us do that. And especially if there is depression, you feel low, all the asanas which are above gravity, which we will see in the next few slides, help us feel much more happy up and about. Okay. So these are some of the yoga asanas. I'm going to also take you through these. I clicked these pictures today morning, especially for all the audience, because I didn't want you all to see some pictures which I downloaded from the net. So this is my mom, and I've clicked these pictures today morning. And here is she is 66 years old, and she's actually sitting right next to me. And here she's doing neck exercises. She's also doing a stretch back. So sitting can actually pack up your neck completely, and shoulder rolls. In fact, it's very interesting to see that many a times people say that as their responsibilities increase, their shoulder starts to ache. Like often we say we are shouldering responsibility. So doing shoulder rolls actually helps us to relieve a lot of stress of our back and removes the frozen shoulder. Okay. The next one is the wrist movements. Again, because of sitting, because of aging, a lot of wrist joints are affected, and that is where wrist stretching is very important. Today we have increased incidences of DVT and carpal tunnel syndromes happening. Also twisting, a lot of sitting can actually give you a lot of back pain, and so twisting, standing and twisting helps. If you are unable to stand without, you can also hold a wall and then do the twisting asanas. This is the tricep bend. It also helps in opening. Okay. Again, for your quadriceps, hamstrings, these are beautiful stretches. This one is a butterfly pose. It helps in opening the pelvic joints. This one is the Gomukhasana. It's a nice stretch right from your tricep back and also for your hamstring and quads. And this is a Yastikasana. All that you do is lie down straight and stretch your toes and stretch your arms in such a way as though you think that somebody is pulling you from both the sides like a stick. It's a beautiful stretch. You can do it lying down. These asanas, you can do it sitting. You can also do it on the chair, on the bed. So it's all very, very possible. Okay. Core strength is another thing. And core exercises are very important because they support right from the rib cage down to the pelvis and the hips. And typically for all regular daily activities like lifting, walking, stair climbing, core strength is very important. Okay. So make sure that some core exercises are included regularly. Some of these could be the side bends. Okay. So here if you see, she's getting a nice stretch on the side, on both the sides. And also these are some wall planks. She's also doing toe raises. So this can help her entire calves. So two things together she's doing. Okay. Then everyday back stretches. So for those seniors who may have too much of a challenge, Yastikasana again, this is the supine twist, which means you lie down, let both your feet fall on one side and you look to the opposite direction. So it actually rings you like जैसे गीला कपड़ा हम कपड़ा सुखाने के पहले गीला कपड़ा लगाते तो सारा पानी हम twist करके निकालते हैं. So this is literally twisting of the spine. It relieves the back pain and makes you feel much better. Here is the bridge pose. It only looks difficult. It's not so difficult. All that you need to do is just elevate yourself. If you see over here, her chin is touching her neck, which means it's also activating the thymus gland. Thymus again improves immunity because it is one of the immunity secreting hormones. So it's a beautiful pose. These are leg raises. Again, brilliant for the hip movement. So she's done side leg raises here. This is again a back raise where she's just picked up her leg and twisted it behind. And for those who are unable to do this, you can do a supine one. But if you use a wall, if you use a chair, if you use a kitchen platform, when I say chair, don't use a plastic chair, use a proper sturdy wooden chair. You should be able to do all these exercises. Okay. Some of the asanas for diabetes would be this twisting asana. It's called Ardha Matsyendra asana. This is also the locust pose where she's trying to lift up gravity. Okay. This is a Bhujang pose, ideally known as a snake pose. So you just lift yourself off the ground, and this is the bow pose. Okay. Now, I also spoke about asanas which help you beat depression. All of these would also just brighten up your mood. So on days when you are feeling very low, you can do all of these exercises. Some of these exercises you can also do on the chair. So put your hands on the table and then lift yourself, and you should be able to do a modified version of the same. And you will feel much better. Another version is you take your hands and push it behind your chair and try and do a back namaste. That again can help. Some asanas for constipation and IBS would be the forward bends. Also the previous slide, whatever we saw, all the asanas can do. And the leg raises, you bring the leg closer to you, which would be the Pavan Muktasana, which is the wind relieving pose. Okay. Some modified chair version options. Okay. All of these asanas can also be done on the chair. It's very simple, very easy. All that one needs to do is be motivated to do that. So we know all this knowledge, but we have to get moving. Okay. Yoga also has a beautiful facial massage. Okay, and we know that there are a lot of points around the face. These are called chakra points and energy points. So whilst you do these face massages, it actually kind of activates all these stress points and releases the stress and makes you feel much better. Okay. This is my uncle. I've not downloaded this post. He's a very active senior citizen, and you see he's doing weights. He's doing a rowing pose over here, and he's on a very sturdy spinning bicycle. Okay. He goes to the gym every single day, and he does all these exercises every day. So, of course, this kind of a fitness doesn't come overnight. You need to start working on it slowly and steadily. And over a period of time, you can build this kind of a fitness. It's completely possible. Okay. All these were physical exercises. Now is exercise for an active brain. Just as the body needs exercise, the mind also needs exercises. And so Sudoku, Carom, Ludo, chess, crosswords, okay, watching favorite television shows, engaging in conversation can all be great exercises for the mind, and should be done, especially for it can actually delay Alzheimer's in a significant way. Some things जो हम बोलते हैं हम साथ साथ हैं, हमेशा आपके साथ रखो, are your hearing aids. Okay, it can be quite difficult if a person refuses to wear a hearing aid, because a lot of times in the background things are happening, but they are unaware of it and they feel pretty left out and they start feeling depressed. So wear your hearing aid. It's very important. Okay. Also, these equipments where you can, if you have a difficulty in raising your leg, all these equipments are available. You can just fix your leg and pull it up so that you don't need anybody else to assist you. Today, all the modified writing devices, nail cutters, several spoons, pen holders are all very readily available on Amazon at a very, very minimalistic cost. You can have all of them. And just in case, if you need any of these, don't be ashamed to use the walker. Use it, it's for your support. It not only makes you feel much more in control. Also, people around you know that they need to be more careful whilst you're walking. So use your walkers regularly. In COVID times, loneliness is an epidemic. And you often hear seniors saying, I'm just tired, lonely, I'm sleepy, I'm insomnia, I am unable to sleep, I am feeling very anxious and very depression, feeling the depression coming in. So let's beat that. Make sure that you use technology. Today in the era of technology, all senior citizens can really buck up. Use the Alexa, you have the Siri, the Cortana. Ask them what you want to do. If you are unable to see or you are too bored to type, use the Google Voice search. Send voice messages or WhatsApp messages to your friends and family. Instead of just making a normal call, video call your friends and family so you are able to see them. So the very fact that you are in a lockdown stage, you don't miss people being around. So let's use technology in a very effective way to stay connected and beat the depression. Okay. Again, like I said in the previous slide, that depression can lead you like this drained battery, very fatigued and lack of energy. So make sure that you exercise, eat well. There are a lot of antidepressive foods also, which Eileen will be talking in her presentation. Okay. Soak into some sunlight, get plenty of vitamin D. Vitamin D is one of the best solutions for depression. Practice meditation and pranayam in the sun, in your balcony or closer to the window. Okay. Do some meditation, watch a tree, watch some sunset, listen to your favorite music, cheer up. Okay. Because at the end of it, this is completely your own. How you can feel is completely onto you. You can feel low or you can feel peppy. If you feel peppy, the entire surrounding around you can also sparkle up. You can chat up with old friends or stay connected with your children and grandchildren. Okay. Do some finger exercises. And I would also say Sati Haath Badhao. So even if you are just sitting, probably you can help people at home do small household activities like depodding the peas, cleaning the green leafy vegetables, sorting out the rice, binding the doors. All these small activities actually activate all the smaller muscles in your hand and can really improve your fine motor movements, and also you'll be of great assistance to people at home. Choti choti khushiyan, develop a hobby, singing, painting, knitting. A lot of beautiful research actually shows that those seniors who knit can actually delay Alzheimer's tremendously. Chanting, even small kitchen gardening, reading, joining a book club can all be very helpful. So stay positive, share the joy with TLC, that's tender loving care. Eat well. And this is my last slide. It says recipe for happiness. So what I have for you to take home for lockdown is 2 heap cups of patience, 1 heart full of love, 2 hands full of generosity, 1 head full of understanding. Mix all these ingredients well, sprinkle generosity and kindness, add faith and mix well, add a dash of laughter and spread over a period of time. Serve it smilingly to everyone you meet with to spread the cheer. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nazneen. It was a wonderful presentation.
Thank you,
You
Minali.
have highlighted the importance of multiple factors essential for holistic well-being of the elderly, with a special emphasis on exercise that you illustrated so beautifully with the use of photos. Thank you so much. And we will take up questions towards the end once Dr. Eileen Kande is done with her presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Minali.
Can you all see my screen?
Yes, Eileen, it is.
And you can hear me also?
Yes, we are able to hear you clearly. You can
Okay.
begin with your presentation.
Okay. So basically, thank you, Nazneen. It was really a wonderful presentation. It was really lovely to see your mom. The mountains behind look like Lonavala to me. and she's in an awesome environment. So it's really nice. Talking about the elderly nutrition care. So here we are going to be speaking on what should our senior citizens and our elderly to eat on a daily basis. So often questions do arise as to what should we eat, how much should we eat, what is good for immunity, what is good for us to stay younger and healthier. So all those kind of questions do come to us regularly. So of course we look at elderly being at a higher risk, compared to the other people. And when we say elderly, we mean people who are 60 and more. And definitely a good nutrition would contribute to a good quality of life. There would be degenerative diseases which are by nature natural, that as you go old, there are certain changes that are happening in your metabolism, there are changes happening in your system, and these changes could affect your eating and could affect your health. So when we talk about metabolic changes, it is often seen that your metabolism also decreases as you increase with your age. So when you have a falling metabolism, it also happens that you require lesser amount of calories to consume. So you need to eat less, but that doesn't mean that you need lesser nutrients. So whilst you are reducing your total calories, your nutrition, that is your nutrients that you require, remain the same or could be increased. So how is it possible for you to achieve both those things at the same time, specifically and especially because even your physical activity would be low as you grow older? So yeah. Now, what are the special consideration that we would have for our elderly? Now, okay, for some reason, this slides are skipping. Okay. Uh, what are the questions that our elderlies would ask mostly is because of the loss of sense of taste, or they are unable to chew properly, and they have certain challenges. Okay, now these challenges could have an effect on their immune system. And when we talk about frailty, what Nazneen spoke about, we also talk about something what we call as sarcopenic muscle wasting or muscle loss. So how do you prevent this muscle loss? Reason being is that muscle is a very important factor for you to avoid frailty. When we have to prevent and preserve our muscles, we need adequate proteins in our diet. To get an adequate protein, you also require to combine it with some kind of movements and exercises. How will you achieve these kind of proteins? And how will you measure those kinds of proteins? The best way to measure how much of proteins you're eating is at least include one protein food in every meal. That's where you can actually reach your protein goal. It may not be possible for you to, uh, you know, calculate or count how much of proteins that you are eating per day, but if you include if you're lactose intolerance, you can avoid milk, but you can have curds, or you can have other foods like paneer. If you milk or whey or any other protein intolerant, you can include other foods such as an egg, or you can include chicken or fish or lean meats. If you're a vegetarian, you can sort to foods like pulses or dals or soya. Nuts is another good source of proteins which can be included in your diet. So try and include as much as nuts as possible in your diet, because they give you a lot of more other benefits which we will come across in the next slides. Okay. Fine. There is, okay, sorry for the slides get jumping. Okay. Then we talk about the special consideration that we have because of dental issues. We ask all our elderly to have enough of fiber in their diet, because fiber is good for constipation and fiber is good for various other requirements for your gut health and etc. But when we ask them to have fiber, they may not be able to chew all the foods, especially the fibrous vegetables, well in their diet, and we may require to alter the consistency or the way the food is prepared. So what you can do is tell your or change the way you cook the food. So instead of giving something like a salad, you could give like a cooked meal, like a soup. So these can be made into soups and given, and it could be made into a mashed vegetables or a khichdi, which can be provided, and it will provide enough amount of fiber. In order to avoid or to have a better sensory function, you could include foods such as herbs, spices such as cloves, cinnamon, elaichi, cumin seeds, ginger, garlic. Many patients or elderly do ask me that can I have garlic. The only certain caution which I would like to tell, that everybody may not be able to digest every herb or every spice like everybody else. So you see what really suits your body and suits your system before you actually go in for changing your diet or eating just raw garlics. So if things of like raw foods do not suit you, have it in other forms such as cooked forms. You could also add a lot of flavorings to your meals, which would increase or enhance the taste and enhance the flavor of the meal. Coming to hydration, hydration is very essential. Yes, we got to remember that we need to drink sufficient water, because as we grow older, there is a possibility that the sensation of the hunger, sensation of thirst may be low, and we may not realize when we are thirsty. So sometimes it is better to measure what you are consuming. So you could keep a bottle of water, or it could be even a flavored water with fresh lime and maybe a little bit of ajwain and ginger and jeera. So these kind of waters can be kept, and you can sip it from time to time throughout the day, and see that you have completed the water that you require. Now, why I say water that you require is because everybody's water requirement will be different. It will not be the same. Maybe there are elderly who are having kidney issues, so they cannot drink a lot of water. They have been restricted with water. Their doctor may tell them to have only about 1,000 ml of water. There could be people who have issues with heart issues, like a cardiac failure. Again, those patients, those are the people who the doctor may have said that do not have more water, so they need to restrict their water to 1.5 liters per day. And there are some who have excessive urination throughout the night. So as Nazneen rightly said, finish your quota of water during your wake time, rather than going and having later during the day, which makes you wake up in the night suddenly, and there could be so many other issues to it. Hydration may not necessarily only mean water. It could mean you including your soup, your tea, your buttermilk, your chas, and any other flavored water as well. Now coming to, okay, it's got hung for some reason. Okay, sorry, I think this is just getting stuck for some reason. Okay.
Dr. Eileen, should we
Yeah.
share the slides from our end?
Let me see if it is required, then I will ask you to share. It's just getting hung for some reason. I'll try to use this. Okay. Then considering certain disease conditions which our elderly may be facing. It could be Parkinson's, it could be Alzheimer's diseases, and these may cause a lot of change in our nutrition, change the way we eat, specifically because of the medication. So when we talk about Alzheimer's or we talk about certain other diseases, there are certain kind of medicines that are given for the elderly, like a Syndopa, and these medicines cannot be had along with a protein meal. So that's when your dietitian or your doctor will inform you as to how you should pace out your proteins and your food, and how you should be taking your medications. There are other medications which also interfere with the absorption of the food. And that's when you have to know which other foods you need to avoid with certain other medications. Of course, when we talk about foods that are good for Alzheimer's, we talk about omega-3 fatty acids, we talk about B12. Now, talking about omega-3 fatty acids, what are the sources of omega-3 fatty acids? So, one of the most important nutrient for your brain health, for your healthy skin, for your nerve health, and for you can actually name it and say that omega-3 fatty acid is really good for you. And how will you get this omega-3 fatty acid? The way if you're a non-vegetarian, oily fish, salmon, mackerel, and some other fish are really good in omega-3. They can be consumed. If you're a vegetarian, then you can have walnuts. You can have some of the other nuts, which are also good in omega-3 fatty acids. Now, if you're still not getting sufficient of omega-3 from your food, please do not hesitate to have a supplement. If it is required, you would need to take a supplement of omega-3 fatty acid, which would prove beneficial for you, because most people actually do not consume sufficient omega-3 fatty acids in their food. So try to include that. Okay. Minili, I think you need to share the slide because just getting stuck for some reason. It's getting.
I will share it. Just give me a moment.
Yeah. Okay. So by the time Minili
You will have to stop your screen share.
I will have to share. Okay,
yes.
Fine. So by the time Minili is sharing the slide, I would talk to you about your bone health. Talking about bone health, a lot of queries come up to me asking me whether we can have calcium, how much of calcium we should be having. Remember one thing, the requirement of calcium, especially at an increasing age, is very high, but at the same time, the absorption of calcium is also, an issue. So when you are consuming calcium, especially women who are elderly require higher amount of calcium because of osteoporosis. They could face issues of osteoporosis or knee issues. And remember, calcium per se is not um, uh, is not sufficient for your bones. You, along with calcium, you also require vitamin D, you also require magnesium, you also require phosphorus. How will you get these calcium, how will you get these kind of foods from your diet? Definitely, dairy is a good source of calcium, but if you are lactose intolerant, you cannot have sufficient amount of dairy foods. There are other foods which are also rich in calcium, which can be consumed. You can consume your green leafy vegetables. You can consume your other mixed diets. If your doctor prescribes you a supplement, please do take the supplement also. Best way to get vitamin D in your diet is to kind of expose your at least your hands and legs in your face for a few minutes out in the sun every day. Of course, the morning sun would be better, which it does not directly hit you, but you could get the UV rays from it, and you could automatically develop some vitamin D. Nevertheless, whenever you go for your next health checkup, do remember to check these two nutrients. One is vitamin D levels in your body and the B12 levels in your body, because vitamin D and B12 both kind of do the absorption of it does decrease over time, and the way your body uses it changes over time. So you would need to actually also look out for vitamin B12. Now, B12, when I talk about food sources of B12, uh, you may not really get too many food sources if you're a vegetarian, but if you're a non-vegetarian, most of the non-vegetarian foods do have good amount of B12. So you could take fish, meats, chicken. Yes, in vegetarian, you could just take milk or cheese or curds, which have very minimal B12, but B12 is a good would be good from there next. Yeah, these are the basically doses of B12 and how you could get it based on your recommended dietary allowances. Next. Uh, a lot of our patients suffer from hypertension. And what is it when we talk about hypertension or we talk about your blood pressure? First and foremost, before I talk to you about diet in blood pressure, you have to remember that you got to check your blood pressure regularly. It is a very good idea to have a apparatus at home. You get digital, very easy to use apparatus where you can check your blood pressure. Remember to note it down every time you check it, and you have to also check it in a proper way. Okay, uh, there's another presentation for that itself, but remember, checking is very essential. The second part of treating blood pressure is to actually modify your diet in terms of sodium level. Even though you may feel that you're not consuming a lot of salt in your diet through food, you're not adding salt on your table, on your salads, or anything else, but remember, salt is could be also hidden. So even if you have one bowl of Chinese which has the monosodium glutamate, has got a lot of salt, anything that's processed, so even if you are consuming something like a jam or a bread, all have got baking soda or baking ingredients that are sodium based. So remember that there could be a lot of hidden salts which you do not know that you're consuming, like biscuits, because you may feel that that's easy to eat, so but they all are accounting for salt. So remember that you need to keep your blood pressure in very good control, because strokes and blood pressure related diseases are very high amongst the elderly. Next. Talking about our gastrointestinal health. Now, when we talk about our GI health, uh, it is very common for an elderly person to have a low acidic acid volumes in your stomach. So what happens is the digestion gets affected, because of which there could be certain things called a fermentation. There could be a food that is not digested, and this could result in a fermentation, and this fermentation kind of evolves and releases a lot of gases, and these gases are the ones that cause bloating. So there could be foods that previously you were able to tolerate it when you were younger, and suddenly you feel that okay, after eating a chapati or after eating certain foods, that you're not able to digest it, or you feel bloated, you feel that it's not getting digested. So definitely there could be issues that you are not digesting your food properly. How will you treat this? The best way to treat bloating and acidic issues and indigestion is, first of all, find out which food gives you that kind of a feeling. So one, you need to eliminate that food, maybe not for life, for some time. The second thing what you need to do is you need to reduce the quantity of that particular food. Do not overeat, because your systems, your enzymes, your digestive system is not able to handle so much of food. What you could do is break up your meals. So instead of having three large meals, like I know people who, when we say what they do is they are so used to working for so many years, so they have a real heavy breakfast and they leave home, and then they are on field work, they are on sites, and they are not eating the entire day, and then once they return home, they eat another heavy meal, and then they eat a heavy meal at night. Now this system may have worked for them throughout their life. When they were working, they were moving about, but suddenly when you are older, it may not work for you. So that's when you need to split your meals. So you will need to split your meals, like into two breakfasts, 2 lunch, 2 dinner, small meals. So the same things that you could eat in at one go, you should just split it up. And remember, when you are splitting your meals, you can split it in such a way that you have included all the food groups of the nutrients that you require. What I always tell people is that, you have a little ration bag, and that ration bag is what you have to complete the entire day. The reason I tell them this is because otherwise you don't know what to eat. Because if you're eating a poha in the morning for breakfast, then at 11 o'clock you will eat again some kurmura. Then at lunch you will have again some rice or some roti with some vegetable. And again in the evening you will have a thepla or a dosa or a dhokla. And in the night the same thing. So what happens is you have stuffed yourself with enough and more of carbohydrates, especially which cannot get digested by you, and the other nutrients that you require are very less. So I would suggest that when you are consuming your food, break up your breakfast. So if you're having something like a chilla or a poha in the morning, have your nuts and your fruits in the mid morning, have a light lunch. You can have a khichdi, you can have a kadhi, you can have some amount of vegetable. Again in the afternoon you can have your buttermilk or your chas. In the evening you can have things like your fruits or your milkshake, or if you're intolerant to milk, you can use soya milk. You can use other substitutes of milk, and that's how you can break your meals in the entire day. This will also help you to digest your food well, and it will prevent the bloating, unnecessary bloating and acidity that you would face often. Talking again about guts, what you can see on my slide is something called as a prebiotic. You can change the slide, Minali. Prebiotic and probiotics. Now, why I put this on my slide is because I get a lot of questions as to what are these pre and probiotics? Are they drugs? Are they medicines? Are they something that really we have to take? Now, let me tell you one thing, that pre and probiotics both are what we talk about good bacteria. Prebiotics is something that your body produces the good bacteria, and it comes from your food. Certain foods like garlic, onion, they give rise to certain amount of good bacteria. So that is good to have. When we talk about probiotics, probiotics is something that you are having live bacteria from outside into your body. Okay, and there are different strains. There are thousands and lakhs of strains of these probiotics. These probiotics you can have from your dahi, from your curds, from your buttermilk. Also, people do consume foods like kimchi, kefir, kombucha, certain different types of pickles, certain types of soya preparations. From these you get probiotics. Again, if you feel that you are not getting sufficient probiotics or prebiotics in your diet, you feel that your gut health is not as good as you would want it to be, unless you have done a test for that. There are tests, but I wouldn't really recommend. It's too expensive. So what you could do is you could also take a lot of probiotic supplements. Good supplements are available in the market. Your dietitian could give you a prescription for that, and you could consume that based on what prescription you have. Next. Okay, I just already spoke about calcium, vitamin D, and bone health. Next. Next. Yes. Yeah. Now, when we talk about gout, patients come back to me, especially we have a rehabilitation center. And when we say that, no, you need to eat good amount of proteins because you're sarcopenic, you're losing muscle mass, and you need to maintain your muscle mass. So that's when the patients come back and tell me, oh, but I have gout and I cannot eat so much of proteins in my diet, and I have removed all the protein foods in my diet because I have this joint issues. Now remember, gout is a product of something what we call as purine metabolism. So every food that is protein does not give rise to purines or does not give rise to gout. Okay, and that would happen only if you are having certain foods that are very high in purine, certain red meats which are very high in purine. But your normal foods of proteins, such as your milk, your eggs, your dals, your pulses, will not really make you highly, prone to gout. You need to have enough of proteins in your diet when you take care of your problems with gout. Yes, your doctor may also prescribe, if you're really severe, they may prescribe anti-gout medications, which you need to take on time, and you need to prevent complications, but do not unnecessarily reduce proteins from your food. Next. Yeah, how can I stay younger? How can I stay healthier? And how can I stay happier? There are certain foods which we do recommend for aging. Believe me, it's not that you will never grow old, but we all have to grow old. We all grow old gracefully, and it's all a natural process. But there are certain things which really help, and you require for you as you are growing old, to maintain your immunity, maintain your skin, maintain your hair, maintain your hormonal system, your enzyme systems. And what are they? Let's take a look at it. Next. Yes. Actually, yeah, this slide should not have been coming after this, but let me tell you, I definitely included that slide of carbohydrates there is because of there are a lot of people who would be having a lot of heart diseases, cardiovascular diseases, and diabetes. The most common question I get is, how much of carbs can I eat? How much of will it increase my sugars? Now, you do definitely require carbs in your diet. It's not that you need to go on a low carb diet. All you need to remember is that include whole grain carbs in your diet, which are something that is not refined. Yeah, next. Okay, this is what I was talking about, is your vitamins and minerals, which is your foods for your vitality. It could include your vitamin A, B, C, D, E, K. Next. Yeah, so these slides we'll just run through minimally, because it's not a lecture. So I'll just run through these and say that we do need these vitamins. And how will you get all these vitamins? Some of the foods that you'll get your vitamin A is from your yellow and green leafy vegetables. Vitamin C you will get from your oranges, lemons, pineapples. So these are some of the tips that we give we regularly send it to our patients, our clients, our people whom we are in close contact with, and we give them certain information as to how these foods will really help you. Next. Vitamin E. This is a very, very essential vitamin, especially if you're growing old, is because vitamin E is very important for your skin and for so many other processes in the body. The best sources of your vitamin C, of course, you can have an avocado if it's in season or if it's easily available. If it is not, please do include other foods such as rice bran oil, olive oil, any kind of other oils which you will get vitamin E. If not, you can also use a vitamin E supplement in your diet if it is prescribed to you. Next. Minerals do matter. I have already spoken about certain minerals. Now, your calcium, phosphorus, these are also minerals. Let's look at certain other minerals which are important for your vitality and, as I said, for your immunity. One is zinc. We can see the next slide. Yeah. So zinc, how will you get zinc? Ever since the COVID time has started, suddenly everybody is looking at zinc, and everybody is asking me, how much zinc should I consume? Am I consuming right amount of zinc? And believe me, there are people who are not consuming enough of zinc in their diet, and we do have to give them extra zinc. But if you are not consuming enough zinc, what you can do is make a mixture of various nuts. You can add sesame seeds, flax seeds, sunflower seeds, garden cress seeds, chia seeds, and like make like a mukwas, and have 1 spoon or 2 spoons of that on every day. You could also sprinkle these seeds onto your porridges, onto your curds, or in your milkshakes, and you can consume. But you need to consume, because these things will not only give you zinc, it will also give you selenium and some other micronutrients that you require in small amount. Next. 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 I've already spoken about magnesium. Next. Okay. I've also spoken to you about water. So don't worry about detoxing yourself with various detox drinks. Just simple plain water is fine. You could add cucumber, you could add certain strawberries, vegetables, lime to your water and consume that. If you feel that you're not really feeling the thirst, you can have various other soups, teas, milkshakes. Those also can be consumed. Next. Yes, last but not the least, iron is a very, very important nutrient, because iron is very directly related to the amount of hemoglobin that you are making in your body. When we talk about iron, of course, iron-rich foods need to be consumed. It would come from eating a balanced diet, your eggs, your green leafy vegetables, your certain amount of meats, and no one food is really specifically very rich in iron. But if you have a balance of all foods, that will help in your iron absorption, like vitamin C and other foods which are also required to make hemoglobin, are very important to be included in your diet. Next. Yeah, you cannot ignore certain foods when you're talking about immunity, basically because if you have certain foods which we call it anti-immune, it will definitely prevent you from really making your immunity really good. Specifically, if you're including a lot of sugary foods in your food, in your meals, a lot of caffeine, a lot of preservative foods, a lot of refined foods, a lot of oily samosas or vadas and chips, and all these things need to be kept and left for occasions only, because they should not be like your meals as such. They should be left for your birthday, grandchild's birthday, or somebody else, something that's just for an occasional use. Next. So strike a balance. Okay, a balanced meal would include a variety of nutrients from various sources, and this would keep deficiencies and malnutrition away. So I think this is my last slide, but I would like to sum up by saying that no one food will provide all the nutrients that you require for being healthy. You need to have a balance in your carbohydrate intake, balance in your protein intake, fat intake, and the overall food. If your dietitian has asked you to restrict certain foods because of your health conditions, please abide by it, because adding too much of sugar, salt, or any other foods that could ruin the medical conditions that you already may be having. Remember that you need to stay healthy and happy. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Eileen. You have elaborated beautifully on the nutritional needs of the elderly and problems that could be experienced by them, which could be impairing their nutritional status. You also have provided a lot of practical tips to ensure that they have an optimal or an adequate nutritional intake. Thank you so much. We now begin with the question and answer session. I would firstly take up questions which have been put across to our speaker, Ms. Nazneen Hussain. Ms. Nazneen?
Yes.
The first question is, I have in fact combined two questions here. Many elderly take over-the-counter medications for a wide range of things, and mostly the ones recommended by their friends are these Nana Nani packs. So are these safe, or what could be the harmful effects associated with their use? And also, if they have to take supplements, which supplements would you recommend for them?
Okay, so the first question is definitely these should not, any medicines over the counter should not be taken by seniors because it may interfere with the other drugs. Okay, so we have a lot of drug to drug reaction, we have a lot of drug to nutrient reaction, which means that the drugs also interfere with the food absorption. So none of the drugs should be just taken. That would include all the Ayurvedic preparations or the Unani preparations or any such preparations, because each of the drug has some chemical properties and it may interfere. So definitely not. And for the nutrient supplements, I think Eileen has beautifully spoken about where all supplementation is required. So that answers the question. So ideally, probably, like she said, calcium, iron maybe, omega-3, these are vital, magnesium, zinc probably for immunity. So, but the golden rule still remains that eat well. Only if you have a shortfall on the diet, then you choose supplements. But that also only under prescription by your doctor or your dietitian.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
The next question, what exercises do you recommend, especially yogic exercises for elderly to maintain their balance? And at the same time, which are the exercises or yoga poses that they should avoid?
Okay, so some of the yoga poses they should avoid is the one-legged pose or something which requires too much of twisting. Okay, what they can do is do the same exercises but on a chair. So if probably use the desk for doing your Bhujangasana, probably sit and do your stretches, use a wall or any other prop. So lie down, those some exercises which are standing, especially the stretching exercises, can also be done lying down. So especially if you have too much of a balance and gait problem, then it may be prudent for you to sit down or probably even lie down and do the same stretch. So stretches are available. The same stretch can be replicated also in a supine position.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Nazneen. Due to paucity of time, we would not be taking up more questions on that topic.
No
I
problem.
now move on to questions for Dr. Eileen Kande. Dr. Eileen, how do we change the mindset of the elderly who refuse to eat anything or who refuse to take medicines or basically supplements? What can be done, because it can be very challenging for the caregiver?
Absolutely, it is very challenging for all caregivers. So when I have, in my clinic, when I have two people walking in, and one is either the daughter-in-law or the daughter, so she will start making actions to me. Tell him to eat, tell him to take his medicine, or she will enter the clinic before, her father or father-in-law enters, and she tells me, you tell him to do this and tell him to do that. And believe me, when a professional talks to these people and explains to them why they need to do that and for what reason are they doing that they will get better outcome, they'll be happier, they'll not feel so ill as they were feeling. So when they see benefit in what they are doing, they themselves feel happy to do what is supposed to do if they know that it is good for them. So mostly they do listen to what a professional says. So of course that's because I'm in a professional setup, but definitely even at a home setup, when there is somebody else who is probably not the same person who's taking care of you, tells you the same thing, that is taken more positively than the person at home. So I think everybody has to just search various strategies to actually convince our elderly to take what they need to take.
The next question, what tests, biochemical tests or laboratory investigations would you recommend for the elderly, and how often should this be done?
Okay, so first of all, annual health checkup is very essential. Now, this annual health checkup could be varied, and it could be depending upon what is required and necessary. So we ask for a bone mineral density test for somebody who is elderly, so that we know if there's osteoporosis, or what is the level of osteoporosis, do we need to give calcium and vitamin D and the other requirements. So they have to at least once in a year, this certain amount of tests are very, very essential. And of course, when we talk about elderly, we have there are a lot of centers have come out with their own packages for elderly, because they do include certain scans, certain mammographies, which are all these are diagnostic to detect an early disorder. So a mammography or something that's to do with a sonography, which would detect a fatty liver earlier, or something that would detect a uterine issue, or certain cancers that are detected at an early stage, because there could be sometimes these problems could be asymptomatic. So annual checkup is necessary. Secondly is important is when you're having a symptom. Suppose if you're having something like a fainting or something like a blackout, immediately get your sugars checked. So or you need a CT scan, then you need to see a doctor. You have to understand whether it's a neurological problem or it is a diabetes problem. So whenever there is any kind of symptom, do not ignore the symptom, even if something does not come out of the checkup, but you need to check and see why that symptom is happening. So the next test has to be whenever there is a symptom. The other additional test, as I said, you could include your vitamin D, your B12. There is no need of taking other nutrient tests like omega-3 and all those. We do not generally take a zinc test, or we do not take a B vitamin test. So, but thiamine, yes, if there's alcohol consumption involved, we do take a thiamine test also. So it's all based upon the history and what the person is facing.
Okay. So actually, our participants have a lot of questions for both of you all, but due to time constraints, we would not take them up now. So thank you so much for accepting our invitation.
Yeah, we'd be happy to answer it on email as well.
Yes, we will post the same to you on email. So thank you, Ms. Nazneen Hussain, and thank you, Dr. Aileen Kande, for being a part of today's session.
Thank
My
you
pleasure.
very much. Thank you for having us.
Thanks.
Bye.
So dear participants, thank you all for your participation today. The feedback form link has been shared with you, requesting all of you all to fill it up. Our last session of this series, Nirmal Swasthya, is tomorrow, 19th of June, from 4 to 5 p.m. And it is on the topic, creating a health mindset, mindfulness, moods, and health goals. And it is going to be conducted by Ms. Smita Pradhan. See you all. Thank you.